here for a movie before or an event, please check them out again. Social media, you can find them easily. They've been very hospitable. Thanks to Brittany for helping getting everything organized. There were a few people in my family, friends that stepped forward in the very beginning and offered financial support. So this book is self-published. So I didn't send it out to a bunch of publishers and say, hey, sign me. Everything was paid for me out of pocket. So there were some people that said, hey, I believe in you, I believe in this dream, and thanks to you guys, because we wouldn't have been here today without it. Thanks to McKenna, so the talented one in the family, the pictures were drawn by her. She was very patient as we worked back and forth. I gave her the words, she put down the pictures. It was a long process, but again, very gracious, and I know that Nate, her husband, helped her as well. So thanks to both of you. Thanks to Holly, again, patience, unbelievably. This project's probably been going on for, 3 years or so. The last year, this book was available for sale March of 2014. So for the last year, it's just been sitting there. And I'll tell you why before I forget. It's because they put the binding on the top. And I said, that's not going to work. I can't go out as a real author and have a binding across the top. People aren't going to take me seriously. But then I decided, well, that's an excuse. I got over that. And I said, you know what, we'll just make it part of the story. Put the binding across the top. The story doesn't change, it just makes it look a little goofier. So, if you want to go home and write the dates on this, you can use this as a calendar, and that'll work out pretty well too. If you're going to use social media, if you take a picture of me or the kids or anything while you're back in the room, hashtag Walter Launch, hashtag don't worry, hashtag don't just believe. And my Instagram is @DeVaux_NJ. For those of you that don't have the website, real simple, myname.com. So, if I could get a show of hands, how many people in this room have ever worried, been afraid, or been anxious about anything? Perfect. Exactly what I was expecting. Now, those same people, how many of you found those worries, negative thoughts, anxiety to be productive or add value to your life? Were they productive or did they add value? The answer is no. So, if that's the truth, then why do we still do it? And is it possible, if we are doing it, to abandon it and lead a life that is free of worry and anxiety and lead one that is full of joy and excitement? One last question. What do Mark Twain and Jesus have in common?
Beards.
Great facial hair?
Oh, yeah.
No. They both address the topic of worry. Mark Twain said, I worried about a lot in my life, most of which never came true. Jesus in Matthew chapter 6 says, can any of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your life? Some of you may be familiar with this acronym, taking the word fear, false evidence appearing real. So it's apparent it's not productive, it doesn't do anything for us, but like I said, we still do it. Let me take a step back for a moment and tell you where the story began. Because like I said, Walter is really just the story of Nathan. So for as long as I can remember, maybe 5, 6, 7 years old, I worried about everything. I had bad dreams. I remember we'd go to the store, I'd have to choose between 2 toys. Always made a choice. As soon as we left, I was worried that I chose the wrong toy. Everything I worried about. As you can see in this picture, never was worried about looking ridiculous. The worry went with me. Carried it through to high school. I competed in a lot of sports. The anxiety, the worry, got a hold of me there too. Interfered with me when I competed. Instead of thinking about how capable I was constantly analyzing what's the other guy going to do, what are their strengths, and I focused on my weaknesses. Again, lots of worrying, but still not worrying about looking ridiculous. Nice hair, dude. So for me, it really came to a head my junior year of college. For whatever reason, probably just because I was off of the path that I felt like I was supposed to lead for my life, the anxiety came to a head. It overtook me. It was probably the first time in my life that I had felt overwhelmed, like I couldn't beat something. And being a competitive person, you don't like it when you can't win. I couldn't concentrate. couldn't sleep very well at night, and even lost my appetite. And as we've already got the theme figured out, was not worried about looking ridiculous. So that junior year, I came home, and I remember the first time that I had a conversation with my parents that it had just gotten really bad, that it had really taken me off course. I was pacing up and down our hallway in our home like a caged lion, and the anxiety was just building up. I had a discussion with my parents that night about what I was struggling with. Led to many more discussions, friends, family, pastors, and even a psychologist. So that's when I thought in my head that I was officially crazy. You see a psychologist, there's got to be something wrong with you. That was false. But also during that time, I started to read a lot. I started to research. I refocused on my faith, my relationship with Christ. And I was able, through that healing process, to learn a lot of things. And so in our time here today, there were a couple things that I wanted to share with you. First, turns out I wasn't alone. I also wasn't crazy. In one of the books that I read, I found this statement interesting. This isn't a direct paraphrase, but it was something to the effect of just how much our kids today are plagued with some type of psychological distress. The statement said something like, treatment for psychological disorders in adolescence has become much more common in today's age. A regular treatment for a child aged 5 to 10 today was so uncommon 5 to 6 decades ago that similar symptoms in an adult would have placed them in a psych ward or mental hospital. So the psych patient of the 1950s becomes the average children facing psychological distress today. A few stats just to flash up here. Depression, leading cause of disability in the United States in people over 5 years of age. Up to 40% of Americans reported having some type of psychological distress. More than 1 in 20 Americans 12 and older reported current depression. In 2005 to 2008, antidepressants were the third most common prescription taken by Americans. For the ages 10 to 24 years old, suicide is the third leading cause of death. So some sobering steps to look at, but I think that it's important just to know, let's say there's 40 people in this room, maybe 2 people this really hits home for. The problem is real, and it is pervasive, and if this is something that you deal with, it would have been helpful for me to know this sooner. Just know you are not alone. Even if you don't struggle with these things or struggle with them to the degree that I've explained here, we all have bad days. We all have rough seasons in our life. And listen, I don't know what your struggles look like. I don't know how dark the day can get. But again, I can tell you that there is hope. Do me a favor, and I know this is awkward when you get asked to do this in social settings, but close your eyes. We're going to walk through a little exercise. And you have to have your eyes closed to do it. Okay, so as your eyes are closed, I want you to picture you're in a dark room. So dark that you can't see your hand in front of your face. Pitch black. It's absolutely quiet. There's no light even coming in through a crack in the door. You're seated in a chair, a solitary chair, in the middle of the room. And for all you know, you're the only person there. Now just soak that in and feel that for a second. Now, with your eyes still closed, I want you to picture yourself on a beach. The sun is shining. You can feel the warmth on your face. The sky is so blue. The ocean is crashing on the beach. Music's playing in the distance. You're having fun. People are laughing. And you're just sitting there enjoying a cold drink in your hand. You can go ahead and open your eyes. The difference between that first scenario and the second is me when I was struggling with it and where I am today. So I won't tell you that my life is free of worry or that there aren't, days where I'm anxious, but I can tell you that my approach, everything about it is so much different. It doesn't have the grip on me that it once did. And that's the message of hope and encouragement that I wanted to share with everybody else. When it clicked for me, one of the things that stood out in my reading is when I realized how good things still were, even though I felt I was isolated in the darkness. Again, back in Matthew 6, therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Is not life more than food and the body more than clothes? Look at the birds of the air. That's why Walter's a bird. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? Can any one of you, again, same verse, can any one of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your life? So what now? You know that I wrote a book, but now you know why I wrote the book. I don't know necessarily what's next. I just know that I want to take my story and share it so other people have the hope and encouragement that I now have in my life. See, I was a victim, and only because of my own doing, but I see too many people that live life in a rut and go through the motions. Stop doing that. Do you realize how good things are? And if they're not, how good they could be? The joy is out there for us to experience. Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. John 10:10. The thief, whatever you want to call it, worry, anxiety, doubt, comes only to kill and steal and destroy. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. The other thing that I would touch on, and it's for me again, just out of my personal story, is take baby steps. It doesn't matter what's going to happen a week from now or a month from now, whether it's a bad habit that you're trying to get rid of or a dream that you've written on your chest that you want to accomplish. It doesn't have to be finished in your mind. Just figure out what is the next step that I need to take in this minute, in this day, and then take that step. No? Hey, there we go. Next, I don't know if people have heard this before. I mean, it's been a while since I read it for the first time. But again, we take the role of victim and we don't realize this. But you choose your thoughts. Okay? As evidenced by the exercise we did earlier. You were able to choose to be in the dark room, and you were able to then change your mind and be on the beach, and probably experience some physiological differences inside as well. You can do the same thing regardless of what you're thinking about throughout the day. So I'd encourage you, don't be a victim. Take the negative thoughts captive and replace them with positive, uplifting, abundant thoughts. Back to baby step segmentation. I wanted to point one other thing out. Because I think when we talk about these kind of topics, we don't think about it being strength. We look at it from a position of weakness. Where I got the idea for baby steps and segmentation actually came from the Navy SEALs. So their first week of training, when they go out to BUDS training, they go through a week, most torturous week you could ever imagine in your life. Guys that come out of there then talk about how did you make it through that week. They don't talk about being great and heroic. They talk about making it to the next meal. They didn't look at what do I have to do a week from now in BUDS training or what do I have to do a month from now to be a Navy SEAL. They said if I can make it to breakfast, I'm good. Then once breakfast was over, if I can make it to lunch, I'm good. And so on and so forth. Dinner, day by day. Break it down, make it easy. Don't overwhelm yourself. And then the right attitude. I think, on the note of depression and anxiety, it is a medical condition. I remember the first time I talked to somebody about it, like I said, when I went to see the psychologist, I thought I was crazy or whatever, take medicine. They said, well, if you had bad eyes, wouldn't you wear glasses? Well, yeah, of course I would. Then it's no different than seeking that type of thing with regards to mental conditions. So I don't discredit what doctors or what medicine can do because of what it's done in my life. But again, you have to realize that you're going to be the one that chooses the attitude. Another quote that I like comes from John Maxwell in his book, The Difference Maker, and it talks about attitude. It says there's little difference in people, but the little difference makes a big difference. The little difference is attitude, and the big difference is whether it is positive or negative. So again, I urge you, make sure that you organize your notes so you don't have awkward parts in your presentation. Don't think about what it takes to finish the job, segmentation, oh. We'll edit that out later. Again, I urge you, if you don't take anything else away from today, be encouraged. Take on a positive, I can do it attitude, or it's going to be nearly impossible for you to fight whatever battle it is that you're fighting. If you're still trudging around in the mud of your negative thoughts, it's going to be impossible to fly. You can do it. I know that you can do it because I've done it. Again, there's nothing special about me. This took a lot of baby steps to get here. My name's on the front of the book, but again, if you guys wanted to write a book, you could do it. At my lowest point, I didn't have the strength to sleep in my own room. I lost my appetite. I couldn't even finish my tater tots at lunch. But I'm standing here in front of you today proclaiming victory, and I wanted to share that if I can do it, so can you. You just have to believe. Thank you. So if the kids want to come forward, or adults, you're more than welcome. We got lots of rugs. Come up here and we'll read the story. Holly, can you come get the clicker? Click through this for me.